today's meeting, but all other committee members are present via Zoom. This is a remote or online meeting where all participants will be on a video or audio conference. We are holding this meeting remotely to allow everyone to participate safely while we are conducting business under a public health emergency. We appreciate your patience as meetings are being conducted this way. Members of the public, city staff, and media have the ability to view this meeting live through YouTube and Zoom webinar. The live stream can be accessed from most smartphones, tablets, or computers. And for those watching on the live stream, thank you for joining us. I do believe we have a few members of the CPOA that have signed up to address us for today's public comment.
Madam Chair, I've let in Ms. Chantel Galloway from the CPOA board. Ms. Galloway, if you wanted to address the committee, please feel free to turn your video on and unmute yourself.
Hi. I don't have anything specifically for the committee. I think we're just here to answer any questions that you all may have and participate in the meeting as well, and just let you know that we're here. I don't know if Chair Olivas had anything, but I don't see him yet in any case. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Galloway, and thank you for serving on that board as well. I'm sure, I believe if we do see him come through, we'll recognize him at that moment, but we'll proceed on the rest of our agenda item until we see him. So thank you for joining us. All right, we're going to move on to our presentations from the Albuquerque Fire Department's Home Engagement and Alternative Response Team. With us, we have EMS Chief Emily Jaramillo, Captain Brian Breezewine, and it looks also like Chief Gallegos is also with us.
Yes, Madam Chair, Chair members, thank you for inviting us today. I do have two of my divisions here today, in our HART team and our logistics team that will both be doing presentations for you today. So thank you again very much for the invitation. To my right, I got Battalion Chief Nate Meisner he oversees our fleet and logistics. Deputy Chief Jaramillo. On my left, I have Captain Brian Breezewine that oversees HARTs, and Captain Brian Fox, who oversees logistics. So, and at this time, I'll pass it off to Deputy Chief Jaramillo so that she can start with her HART presentation.
Hi, good afternoon, Madam Chair. We are excited to give you guys some updates about our HART team. As everybody knows, this team was funded about 3.5 years ago, our community paramedic program. It's actually, we have our first captain that helped with the designation, the design of this program in here as well. He now oversees our fleet. But we wanted to update today just because the fundamentals of this program was for it to tackle repeat patients in the 911 system that we were seeing at Albuquerque Fire. And it's really grown exponentially over the past 3.5 years to encompass a lot of different areas of community health. And so we wanted to just update you with a lot of the work that the team is doing. So I have Captain Breezewine, who oversees the HART program here. And we're just gonna kind of tackle this, and if you have questions along the way, please feel free to ask. We'll pause along the way to see if there's any questions that you may have. So, go ahead, Brian.
Thank you, Chief. Hi, my name is Brian Breezewine. I'm Captain with Albuquerque Fire Rescue and Captain of the HART program. Thank you for having us. The HART program, as you can see in there, was established in 2018, and it's a Home Engagement Alternative Response Team. It's made up of myself as a captain, and we have 5 other paramedic community health workers as well. We have 3 lieutenants, Loriana Sargent, Athena Valeria Hirschfeld, Jake Gray, and then 2 drivers, driver Cito and driver Jose Chavez. You skip to the next slide, please. Thank you. That's going to be fun. The first program, as Chief Jaramillo had spoken about, was a repeat patient program. So when we created HART, by we, it's this group, including Chief Meisner here, who I'm happy is here as well. Our main goal was to try to reach individuals that were frequent callers in a 911 system. What we started with was creating a repeat patient program where we would identify, and by we I mean HART providers, would identify individuals that were needing care greater than the normal 911 response, whether that was assistance with a long-term medical condition, assistance with falls, or even just guidance throughout the medical system in general. So the repeat patient program still focuses on that, and we do that by coordinating our care with those individuals in need and navigating them to the right resource. I think is probably the best way to describe that. One of our other programs, if you can please skip to the next one, thank you, was our fall prevention program. This was one of our main 3 programs that we created when we first started the program. This one is helmed mainly by Lieutenant Valeria Hirschfeld, and its focus is to address one of our busiest call types that we have in Albuquerque Fire Rescue, and that's falls. Falls are a big problem in the city and just EMS in general. We have a lot of individuals that have fallen for a multitude of reasons, whether or not that's just mechanical falls, medical falls, whatever it might be. We try to address those by meeting the patient where they are and seeing what needs to be addressed. If it's a medical condition, whether it's a medication issue or an unaddressed medical condition, we try to guide them to the appropriate resources there. If it's a mechanical fall issue, we created an aspect of our program called the home modification program, which we use to install grab bars, handrails, ramps, minor home modifications in individuals' houses that are needing some assistance to help prevent the fall. We also include some mobility things as well as that, such as door widenings. We have a lot of folks that are wheelchair bound, and one of the reasons they fall might be they're trying to go to the restroom, but their door isn't wide enough for their wheelchair to fit, so they stand up in the wheelchair and fall to the toilet. And that's when we get called in. So if we can widen that door, put some grab bars, it really is very effective in preventing those calls.
And if I could just jump in, both the repeat patient program and the fall prevention program are programs that we've attributed to the call volume reduction that we saw at AFR during 2020. So we reduced our call volume by about 15,000 calls. And these 2 programs specifically are ones that we can attribute some, we believe, as some of the results, or has caused some of that results. And the fall prevention program was funded in FY20, I believe. And one of the pieces of that was we have a carpenter on staff with our community paramedics. And so when these homes are identified where people are falling frequently by our field providers, our HEART team goes out to those homes with the carpenter, and then the modifications that Captain Breezeline was just talking about are things that we're providing, and we're working with senior affairs for that as well. But our carpenter averages about 30 home modifications a month. And so he's very busy, and he's making a big difference across the city when we identify these frequent fallers.
Absolutely. And as Chief Adamiro had said, is we partner with the senior affairs. When we first started this, we had senior affairs who does a similar program, finding individuals that need home modifications, and they had a very big list that needed assistance with. So we started with helping them, trying to find individuals that were both clients of ours, clients of the 911 system, but also senior affairs waiting on that list, and try to address those needs as well. One of the benefits that we have over that's different than senior affairs is we don't have an age requirement. We've been currently working with an 18-year-old individual who is paralyzed from the waist down recently, and we have done a lot of home modifications in her house just to make things easier for her going forward. That's not something senior affairs would have been able to do, and we have the benefit of being able to do that. So that's a good aspect of it as well. Another aspect of fall prevention is actually teaching people how to recover from falls. So one of our lieutenants, Lieutenant Athena Valeria Hirschfeld, she put together a program that she calls Be Brave. Be Brave is focused on teaching individuals how to recover from falls. What the plan was for that was we would teach this class at senior affair facilities, senior facilities, so senior centers, and teach individuals how to recover. We would actually bring out, they look like giant wrestling mats, and we put wrestling mats on the floor. We would lay these individuals down, and we would teach them how would you recover from this? You want to assess yourself, make sure you're not injured, and then turn on your side and climb up a chair or a wall, whatever it is to help you get to a standing position, so you're not stuck there waiting for 911 services if You know, a lot of times we find out an individual might have fallen days before and somebody finally found them. We're trying to avoid those situations by teaching individuals how to recover and seek help if needed. You can go ahead to the next slide, please. The other of the main three of our first programs was harm reduction. Harm reduction, in our sense, was to help individuals that were struggling with substance use, mainly opiate substance use. When we first started, the plan was for us as the paramedic community health workers to go to these individuals' homes and provide them with the education and resources needed to address maybe a substance addiction or substance usage. We would also provide them with Narcan that was provided to us by the Bernalillo County Community Health Council. And we would teach them the education on how to use the Narcan, how to identify an overdose. And our plan with that was to help, you know, save a life, essentially. Since its inception, it's grown to include some different aspects of it. One of the aspects that we've added to that is our 2 peer support workers that it shows on there. We have 2 certified peer substance workers. So they're individuals with lived experience and that have been trained to help guide individuals through their recovery phases. So we have 2 of those that work 20 hours each, and that was brought to us by Family Community Services through a grant. And that one is the Bureau of Justice Assistance Comprehensive Opioid Abuse Site-Based Program Grant. Fun name. Yeah, easy one to spit out real quick. But essentially, they fund those positions to work with us, and we can help individuals that are in need. How do we identify those individuals? It was initially done by EMS crews identifying them and referring them to us, or us just identifying it through how the calls were reported. But recently we partnered with the Department of Health, the New Mexico Department of Health, and they've been sending us referrals of individuals that have recent overdoses, and we've done quite well with that so far.
And one other thing that, did you talk about?
No,
Okay.
no, yeah, that's the other big one.
So one other part that we're, and I'll let Captain Breezewine talk more about the take-home Narcan, but one thing that we've identified over the past really year and a half, but we've seen a big jump in the past 6 months is young cardiac arrest patients under the age of 50 that are going into cardiac arrest because they've overdosed and they've had respiratory depression for too long without Narcan, so they go into cardiac arrest. So we've noticed that we almost have as many cardiac arrests in the under 50 age group as we do the over 50 age group, which is kind of a new statistic for us. And so we're working with our medical director in the state because it's really showing the opioid problem in our community, and that with fentanyl and everything else kind of coming in, that we're seeing a more significant impact on mortality. And so one program that we're expanding out right now with HEART and with our department is the Take-Home Narcan Initiative. And I'll let Captain Breezewine explain that a little bit more.
Sure, thank you. So originally, when we would give out Narcan, and I said we would give that out, is we would go to the individual's house and we would hand them a Narcan after they've already had an event such as an overdose. With this new program, it's called Leave Behind Narcan. We actually would have our EMS crews identify an individual who maybe had just overdosed and is not wanting to go to the hospital and they want to stay home, but we could give them a container of Narcan that includes 2 4-milligram sprays of Narcan that would helpfully overturn an overdose. I can't think of the word right now. So, thank you. Reverse an overdose. And in addition to that Narcan, we would actually leave them with some resource information, because that's also just as important as the medication itself. Those resources could be if that person's wanting to seek treatment or assistance, or is wanting to speak to somebody, they can call HEART, speak with one of our peers, and we can guide them that way. If that individual is looking at finding different harm reduction aspects, such as a needle exchange program or more additional Narcan and education and training, we can hopefully guide them down that appropriate resource as well. And we're looking forward to it. Hopefully we'll start that soon. I think it's a great program that's going to be very beneficial for individuals. Next one, please. Rise with Heart. This one's, we can talk about it quickly. We actually have a contract with Family Community Services again, in which we provide transportation for individuals over the age of 50. And these are for individuals who are having transportation insecurities, and they need rides to doctor's offices, the shopping center, whatever it is, to get their medications, whatever it might be. We can actually, using the Uber Health system, which is just like Uber, we can actually get them rides to and from their home, as long as they're over the age of 50 and they're mobile enough to get in and out of vehicles. There are still some restrictions due to Uber Health here in Albuquerque doesn't have wheelchair accessible rides, but it's a program that we started just this last November and have continued to now, and it's kicking off, especially as things starting to open up. It's really starting to pick up, and I think it's very beneficial for that demographic. Now go ahead and next slide, please. Thank you. One of the aspects of HEART that many folks might not know that we do is we actually dive into the public health aspects as well pretty heavily. So probably about 2 years ago now, we started working with the Department of Health and trying to get hepatitis A vaccinations and flu vaccinations to the homeless population at the Coronado Park. So a bunch of HEART providers worked with the Department of Health, went down to the Coronado Park and offered up these vaccinations and shots to these individuals, and it was very receptive. A lot of the folks actually received it. We're thankful for us being there, and it was a good program. Obviously, 2020, things changed with the coronavirus, and we kind of used that partnership we had with the Department of Health to change our trajectory on public health and assist them when they needed us. And that was, they were hurting for individuals to do swab testing. And we stepped up as a group, both HEART and just Albuquerque Fire Rescue in general, to assist them in their swabbing. We actually had a swabbing, a test site here at the Albuquerque Fire Academy. It was one of our first ones that we had in the city. They opened up the Expo New Mexico, and we continued to assist as swabbers for months until basically January.
And I would just like to add in at this point that this did take up quite a bit of HEART's time during 2020 because we had to, as everybody else did, had to look at where we could help assist during the pandemic. And we also had one of our lieutenants undergoing chemo during the same time for breast cancer. And so with all of those challenges, we not only kind of refocused towards helping with the pandemic, but HEART still continued to work on our repeat patient program, our harm reduction program, and the fall prevention program on top of these additional duties with everything related to COVID. And so it was a very busy year, but still very productive for them. And it's something that we're really proud of for this team, that they just really stepped up during the pandemic.
Thank you. Obviously, once the vaccinations came into play as well, late winter, HEART also continued to work with the Department of Health with that. When they had their first vaccination site at the Expo New Mexico, HEART providers were there offering shots. And we've continued as a department to assist with the vaccinations for not just Department of Health, but the EOC, the different hospital systems, whatever they need, we've continued to help with that. But HEART, specifically, what they've done with the COVID vaccinations is actually offered up homebound vaccinations for individuals that are unable to get to these sites due to medical issues or transportation issues, whatever it might be. And we've been doing that for the past few weeks and have been pretty successful in getting essentially 35 to 40 vaccinations to folks that might not have got it otherwise. So, thank you. Next slide, please. Heartbeats is a new program. The Heartbeats is the basic education and transition for strokes program. And what the plan for this was, one of the calls that happens here in the city that gives us a lot of repeat calls is actually stroke readmission. So if an individual has a stroke, about 30% of those individuals might need to be readmitted into the hospital fairly soon after the care they received. So what we essentially try to do with this program is help guide those individuals to the appropriate resource when they're leaving either the hospital or the rehabilitation center to prevent that follow-up call. This is a new program for us, and we're just starting it. We got our first referral today, so I don't have a whole lot of information on that, but that's just the basics of what that will be. We have plans on how that will continue to grow, and hopefully we can have greater updates in the future.
And I think with the statistics, 30% of the patients post-stroke end up needing to go back to the hospital And so this also ties back into our repeat patient program where we're looking more at the prevention piece, where if we can do that follow-up and assist with that follow-up, the intention is hopefully that these patients don't have to re-engage with the 911 system or have to be readmitted at the hospital by having that support from our paramedics.
Excellent, thank you. Next slide, please. And then this is our last program. This one is we actually received a crisis response canine through to the hard work of our Lieutenant Jacob Gray. He was able to work with the Assistance Dogs of the West and Bernalillo County, or excuse me, the Albuquerque area firefighters Random Acts, and also Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Mexico, in order for us to receive a crisis response canine who we have, and her name is Wrigley. And we use this canine to help both our individuals here in the department. Firefighters go through a lot of stress, and the dog might be able to help alleviate some of that. And that's what her training is. But what we use it for our patients is the exact same thing. We actually had a recent event where we had an individual who was wanting to seek assistance and treatment for substance use, particularly alcohol, but he was struggling to make that determination on if he was going to go or not. Well, he actually had a really strong connection with the dog, with Wrigley, our crisis response canine, and Jake, Lieutenant Gray, had brought the dog with him to the client visits and was able to work with Wrigley and the patient actually changed her mind and said, yes, I'm ready to go. After just a few minutes with Wrigley, she was able to help him relieve some of that stress and get him turned around into making that choice. And that's just the beginning of what she can do. She had to do a period of a few months where she had to integrate into the program as us individuals before we can bring her into the field. So she's just getting into the field now, and we're very excited to see what she can do. So that's the last one. That's the last one.
That was our last slide. So if there's any questions from anyone, we'd love to answer them for you.
If there's any questions, Councilor Bassan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just hoping that at a future Public Safety Committee meeting, Wrigley can join to answer any questions.
Councilwoman Bassan, yes, I hope so. We had her here earlier. She's not really great at answering the questions, but she makes a great presence, that's for sure.
Fair enough. Thank you so much. That was a great presentation.
Thank you.
Yes, I agree. At least a picture of Wrigley would have been great. She's really cute to stare at. Any other councilors, questions, comments before we move on to the next presentation? All right, well, hope to meet Wrigley soon. Next up, we have on the agenda is also with Albuquerque Fire Department, but this is with logistics overview presentation with Battalion Chief Mesner and Captain Brian Fox.
Thank you all for joining. I'm really just going to turn this over to Captain Fox, but just to highlight a couple of things. In the last year, we obviously made a large transition with our fleet, and we were able to secure a new facility and do a lot of our fleet maintenance. Our fleet facility used to share the same building with logistics down off 4th Street. And after the fleet operations moved out, Captain Fox has come in and gotten things organized and taken an opportunity with the added space to make things more efficient and help us to utilize our resources a little bit more effectively. So he'll just present on what logistics does for the fire department, and if you have any questions, we'll take those either along the way or after.
Hi, thank you for having me. Good afternoon, everybody. Captain Brian Fox. As Chief Meisner stated, approximately a little over a year ago, I believe, fleet moved out of the facility that logistics is currently in 100%. And they moved to a facility on the west side, which then we moved the pharmacy from the EMS side of things, whose logistical support for the emergency medical services side of things, down to logistics, and then we increased our staff at logistics. So this is an overview of what we do and how we're planning on moving forward. So if we can go to the next slide, please. So just a quick highlight of the main topics and things we do down at logistics is we support over 700 members. You know, a lot of our requests come through frontline services. Our main objective is to keep Obviously, the frontline emergency apparatuses, facilities and resources and personnel running at all times. We support 22 fire stations, 7 support facilities. That includes essential items, things to keep everything with the exception of their everyday groceries and coffee that they pay for, operating and running within the facility when it comes to equipment and essential item needs, toilet paper, paper towels, cleaning supplies, things of that nature. We provide equipment for over 50 frontline apparatus, repair and replace equipment that's damaged or needs replacement when that replacement comes up. And then we also, one of the big things we do is we repair and maintain over 230 frontline SCBAs, self-contained breathing apparatus, which our members use for structure fires anytime they're in an atmosphere where they have to have a clean breathing air, hazardous materials calls, anything of that nature. And then we launder, repair, and inspect all bunker gear, firefighting gear. We also launder uniforms if they're have some type of bio-waste contamination. If you can move to the next slide. So credit to my staff, you know, they're the ones that make me successful, our department successful. We have 10 people that run a logistics facility in total. 7 of those personnel report to myself at logistics. We have a materials manager, Phil Pino. He's been with the city for over 16 years. He's in charge of once we receive funding or approval to purchase things, he's the one that handles that and tracks everything for me. He has a fiscal assistant. We have 2 warehouse workers, which receive orders, fill orders, and then deliver orders. We have a PP technician who inspects, launders, and repairs firefighting gear, whether, like I said, wildland gear, bunker gear, or it's frontline uniforms that need to be laundered. And then we have an SCBA technician who does inspections, repairs, and maintenance on our self-contained breathing apparatus. And then inside the logistics facility, we also have the EMS pharmacy, which consists of 3 personnel. Lieutenant Carpentier runs that, and they support you know, the EMS side of things. Anything that we need medically to resupply stations or apparatus, that's the stuff that they handle. And then he has 2 warehouse workers as well. If you can go to the next slide, please. So, like I said, we supply 29 stations or facility storerooms, and we call them storerooms, if you will. These are the essential items that it takes to supply the station personnel who live there a third of their lives for their career, you know, span, if you will. Those items include, you know, like I mentioned, the cleaning supplies, what it takes to clean, toilet paper, station supplies, etc. Company officers put their station supply orders in every Sunday. We fill those orders. My guys review them and fill them, and we deliver them every Monday and Tuesday. So quite the task. We focus now on getting that done in 2 days. We used to do it over a 3-day time span, and now we're doing it in 2.5 days, and we created delivery routes to do so. If we go to the next slide, please. So this is what it looks like. Just wanted to paint the picture for you. We have a software program that we use called Check It for our fleet, for our facility, and then as well as our equipment. It tracks our assets. We build storerooms for stations. Each apparatus has an inventory, and then we have all the equipment that we have and that we consider an asset that we can move around, whether it's a loaner or frontline piece of equipment. What you see here is a storeroom, just a glimpse of it. There are other pages to it, but a company officer goes into this on a Sunday night, and they bring everything to a level of items that they need. We look at it that Monday morning when we come in, and then we fill the orders over those 2 days. And then we take them out in our delivery trucks to fill those orders. Okay, if we can go to the next slide. Okay, so a lot of special requests outside of essential items. We consider these non-essential items. So they get a special request ticket. On average, logistics receives over 220 special request tickets a month. These requests include damaged equipment that may need repairs and or replacement. These may be new station items, or things that have worn out over time that malfunction, or if we open a station, things of that nature. Our goal at Logistics is to receive these tickets and at least respond to them, comment, prioritize on them, and have a plan to replace them with 1 hour of receipt. And that's, of course, if we are actually working during business hours. If we can go to the next one. This is a glimpse of our tickets for special requests. So when they come in, they get reported, we review them, and then we prioritize them, and then we'll put them into pending, or we'll complete them right away if we have the inventory in stock. So with that said, some of the items we have to get approval from the chain of command, and they may go into pending until we can actually purchase them, or we've had the approval to purchase them and we're just waiting delivery, so we leave them in pending, and then we provide updates to the person that requested the items. Okay, if we can go to the next slide. Okay, one of the things, we used to be a 4-person staff at Logistics. Over the last 4 months, we've hired 3 individuals. The fiscal assistant, and then we hired a warehouse worker for the EMS side of things, and then we hired a PP technician. So with the EMS and fire side of Logistics, we're up to 10-person staff opposed to 7. So Logistics PPE technician is he's certified with the National Fire Protection Association, which is 1851 certified, which means he can repair, inspect, and launder our gear as needed. Now we have a laundering facility on site. He receives approximately 40 sets of bunker gear to launder each month. He doesn't just launder it, he inspects it, and then if it requires repair, if it was burned or one of the barriers received damage because of use or time or breakdown, he can repair that, or we send it out to a third party if it's a major repair. And then we decon for bloodborne pathogens, wildland fires, and then of course structure fires. And then we have in stock at Logistics 250 sets of bunker gear that are loaner sets of gear that we put on the individuals while their gear is getting repaired and inspected. And then at the at the Logistics facility, we have 2 wash machines, 2 spin dryers, and 1 air dryer. And then, of course, our goal is to get gear laundered, inspected, and repaired, and returned back to the individuals before their next shift, which was within 96 hours. We try to return that gear to them. So far, we've been successful at doing so. Our new PPE technician, who's Justin Wyatt, is doing a phenomenal job, and we're reorganizing and restructuring things as we move forward now that he's on board and we have our own in-house. We still third party some of our stuff out, the major repairs, but we used to have to third party out everything. So this is quite a bit of cost savings to have our PPE technician in-house and conducting laundering and inspection and minor repairs. Okay, if you can go to the next slide, please. Our SCBA technician, so again, certified with the National Fire Protection Association, 1852, which means he meets their standards, which again, that bar is set pretty high. He receives multiple tickets to repair SCBAs and station cascade systems daily. Cascade systems are air systems that we have in stations where trucks who use their air within their air bottles on their SCBAs can go and refill their air bottles, so they don't have to go out of service and come all the way down to our facility or to one of the 3 stations that used to have them. We're now increasing our capabilities to go to multiple stations to do that. We have 2 backup personnel, which we got qualified as SCBA technicians. So if this individual is ever on vacation or some type of medical leave, we now have the ability to be sustainable within our own division, which is nice. And then we have over 20 loaner packs, SCBA packs that we loan out. And then at the Logistics facility, we have the SCBA repair facility, which includes a posi check machine, which we allow that tests our regulators and does flow pressures on masks as needed. And then we have specialty tools and spare equipment. If we can go to the next slide, please. Just an overview of some of the big projects we've taken on over the last 4 months. Last year, we received $1.5 million in capital outlay to roll out new SCBA packs to replace packs that we've had in service 10 to 15 years. We began this project when we took deliveries of these packs back in the beginning of March. There was 430 bottles and 230 packs. We had to test, label, and also test all the regulators on the SCBA back frames. And then we reboxed them, and we've now organized them for battalion. We're going to begin this rollout on the 17th of May, which is next Monday. And we're going to have this completed within 2.5 weeks. So that's a very big project my staff has taken on. Ladder company power equipment, which we had help funding through City Council, which was new K-12, which is circular saws, which our guys use to cut ventilation holes, gain forcible entries to structures to save lives, and then positive pressure ventilation fans, which they use to push smoke and superheated gases out of structures, which allows our crews to enter to, again, rescue people if they're trapped. So labeling, making those assets in our Check It software, and then distributing those to our 8 ladder companies throughout the city. And then the plan is to bring that equipment back to logistics, and then we're going to create a maintenance program, a quarterly maintenance program with the spare equipment that we take off the ladders that are currently in use that we can salvage. One of the big things we've been doing over the last 4 months is reorganizing logistics, as Chief Meisner and myself mentioned to you guys. With fleets moving out, we've had the ability to expand, organize, and actually make this a logistics and warehouse facility. And, the tricky part was to create office space from going from, 7 employees to 10, and reorganizing and configuring workspaces for a new PP technician and whatnot. So we've been successful in doing that. We've had great assistance from our capital improvement project guys that come out and do construction, and the fire administration who's provide funding. And I have some pictures. I'll show you that here in a minute. Distribution of hot sticks, AC voltage meters for the ladder companies, which again allows our crews to detect voltage and AC current and be able to operate in a safe manner. And then distribute angle grinders and sawzalls, which again are specialty tools to all our frontline engines, which are 22 engines. So that's just kind of the touch of the surface of the big project. So if we can move to the next slide, please. Here's some pictures of the projects at logistics. So again, those are just some of the SCBAs, and then those are some of the bottles. And then again, labeling them, assembling, and testing all of them, and getting them built as assets so we can track them. Okay, if we can go to the next slide. To the left is redesigning and building the facility as a warehouse. As you can see, this used to be half this was Chief Meisner's building, the fleet facility. And now we moved, you can see the bay door there. Now we're turning it into a warehouse. So redesigning, and then again, creating the workspace, the picture to the right, for my guys to do small engine repairs and have a cost saving, so we don't have to outsource those materials that we can do minor repairs on in-house. Okay, moving to the next. To the left are guys from our CIP division, adding our conference room, redesigning our conference room, so we have a training space and meeting space. And then the picture in the middle, this is just a look at our laundering facility. Prior to getting things redesigned and organized. And then the picture to the right is our PP technician. I love that picture of him. He may be mad at me for putting that one in there, but that's his first set of bunker gear that he laundered and inspected for our department. So, that's a big task, and credit to the guys before me in logistics who proposed that position and actually got it approved, because that is a much needed position within our department. So on to the next slide. That concludes anything unless there's any questions for me on anything.
Thank you, Captain Fox. This presentation was actually a request of mine after touring logistics and seeing just the heavy lift that was required, especially for the SCBAs. I know that council was very interested and really pushed hard to get some new ones. And so now that they're rolling out, I wanted the general public and also for council to know that background and kind of what logistics is always doing, and they're kind of hidden. No one really sees or talks about them, but that's because they're providing so much services in a timely manner. So councilors, if you had any questions or comments, I would highly encourage you all to take a tour because it was a lot of work, and the middle picture that you saw doesn't not look like that anymore. I can say as I toured the facility myself. And so really thank you to Battalion Chief Meisner and Captain Fox for your work, and to Chief Gallegos too. I know that this was not easy, and I'm really looking forward to the rollout as other firefighters can see the difference in the new SCBAs. So thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, I'm very proud of both of these gentlemen. They worked extremely hard to improve the facility, both the fleet facility and the logistics facility, to get it where it is today. If you would have seen it a year ago with fleet and logistics being crammed into that one building, and you would have been amazed that we can fit everything that you can see in there today in that same building. Again, but it's now it's an amazing space to work in. We've made it so that it's a lot safer for, again, those employees and those workers that are cleaning the bunker gear that are still off-gassing from all those fires that they go to. Again, all those carcinogens that are off-gassing, and they, again, we're showing that proof that we are getting cancer if we do not take care of ourselves properly and make sure that we ventilate the structure and just don't let them sit there. So again, we have a separate laundering area specific for that bunker gear. Again, that's designed by Chief Meisner and Captain Fox. And then also these new SCBAs, thank you for all the help. Again, we need 35 more bottles, and each bottle for the SCBAs is $1,000. Each SCBA harness is $6,000. Again, but those are our lifelines, right? Those are whenever we go into a fire in that IDLH environment, that's what is keeping us alive. So again, it's a small price to pay to keep us all safe. So we're excited to have this new gear, lighter, easier to use. And our older gear, again, they stopped making the parts to fix it. So right now we are piecing the parts from older ones to fix our new ones. So again, it's something that we really needed in our departments, and we thank you all for helping us get it. And we still have another $36,000 to finish replacing all of our SCBA bottles. So again, that's just something that we'll continue to work on. But again, any questions, please let us know.
Well, thank you so much, Chief Gallegos. Oh, looks like Councilor Bassan has a question or a comment.
I do. Thank you, Madam Chair. How many harnesses do you still need, Chief?
At this point, we have all the harnesses we need. We just need 35 more bottles. So each bottle is roughly a little over $1,000. So.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. And thank you again to our fire department for both presentations. I really do appreciate it, and I'm sure the council and the public does as well. Before we move on to our next agenda item C, I believe that from our previous committees, we had a question for APD. If Commander Barker is there to get an update on the Detectives Academy.
Good afternoon. The update on the Detective Academy is that we are still scheduled to tentatively start it on June 14th of this year. It will be a 2-week academy that will end on June 25th. We have 40 detectives that are currently signed up over 7 divisions within the department. Most of the detectives have already started taking the prerequisite classes for the academy, and we're in the final process of securing the contracts for the instructors that are going to come in and teach. The courses that will be covered are interview and interrogation, report writing, search and arrest warrants, interaction with crime victim families, cell phone technology, constitutional policing, courtroom testimony, care course, crime scene management, and basic forensics. And we would love to provide a full PowerPoint presentation at the next meeting.
Yes, I would definitely look forward to that. I'm sure Councillor Bassan does as well. Councillor Bassan, did you have any follow-up questions for Commander Barker?
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. And yes, I do. Commander Barker, thank you. I gave, in all fairness, I gave her very little time I got to thinking I wanted an update. So thank you for the brief update. If you can can you send me or us that list of just kind of what you just said? It was very fast, but I think that it carried a lot of information already in it, which is very exciting. And then I definitely would really look forward to a more fine-tuned, in detail report with more warning for you. So that would be great. And thank you, Madam Chair, for accommodating that on the next agenda.
Madam Chair, Councillor Bassan, I will get you, I can actually provide this PowerPoint presentation to you that I have and provide the update at the next meeting.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Commander Barker, and also for being quick on your toes. So we'll move on to our next agenda item, that is EC 330. EC 330 is the fourth supplemental agreement with New Mexico Solutions. I move approval. I'll give this one for a second. Any questions or comment, or Councillor Davis, is that a second or a question? Second, I think, is what I heard. Okay. No questions, comments? All right. I believe it's Ms. Host that's calling the roll.
Councillor Bassan.
Yes.
Councillor Davis.
Yes.
Councillor Jones.
Yes.
Councillor Sena.
Yes.
That passes unanimously.
Thank you. We'll move on to our next agenda item. That's EC 331, approval of the real estate purchase and sale agreement and approval of lease agreement for Rosenwald Building condominiums, first and second floor, and segregated 2/3 of basement limited common areas on floors 1 and 2, and proportionate use of common areas containing 15,250 square feet. I move approval. Councillor Jones and Councillor Bassan for a second, or maybe those are questions, but I will take it as a second from Councillor Bassan and Jones. All right. Any questions or comments? Councillor Bassan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I see that in the description, it says 15,250, and then in the staff write-up, the lease agreement specifies 41,730. How many square feet are we, just wanting to clarify that while we have everybody here and publicly? Which one is it?
Madam Chair, Councillor Bassan, we have Alan Varela that's on the call right now. He can answer that. Are you there, Alan?
Yes, I am. Thank you. And I will need to defer to that to either Michael Altamar, who worked on the details regarding the square footage in there. But I think there's a question as to the overall square footage of the building versus the common area. And that may be the source of the difference there.
Hi, this is Michael Altamar. I believe Raylene is also on and she could probably confirm, but yes, I believe that that is the difference. We're talking about the shared common area space, which is it's just kind of the way it's smushed together in that summary. I think it just kind of isn't clear that that's what's being qualified versus the actual portion of the city's interest in the building that we are conveying. And then there's also a portion that's being leased, which is a different designation. So I don't know, Raylene, if you want to parse those out.
Raylene, if you'd like to unmute yourself. There you go.
Madam Chair, Councillor, so you are correct. So the total area, that is the common area is the 15,000 square feet. And then our ownership is the approximate 20,000 square feet. And then the lease of the actual lease area is about 1,400 square feet. Oh, it's 1,461 square feet to be exact.
Madam Chair. So thank you for sort of clarifying, but I still am, I guess I'm wondering if it's 41,000 is listed, 41,730 square feet is the lease agreement specified. And then the common areas are 15,000. So 41,000 and 15,000. Can you just say it one more time maybe?
So let me look at I'm going to look at the counselor and let me look at the lease agreement again. But my understanding is the lease agreement is only 1,461 square feet of the actual building. And then the purchase of the entire condominium, which is the entire building, should be 20,430 square feet. So I'm trying to look on the lease to see, can you tell me what page it says that it's 40,000 square feet?
I'm going off of our staff write-up specifically for this. I can also look. I think that it's very important that we clarify these details before we proceed with approving this EC when it's talking square footage. And there's so many different variations of what we're mentioning.
Counselor, I agree. Let's look at it. Michael, do you remember it being that size?
I'm trying to pull up the document as well. I know that we were dealing with multiple different areas that we were parsing out. So hold on, here we go. Okay, so the entire property, including the building, is 41,730 square feet, of which we have an interest in 2/3, like the first 2 floors and the common area space. And so the interest of the city, so the 41,000 is the entire property. The interest of the city in the building is 20,430 square feet. And then the lease, hold on, I just skipped past that.
The lease space is 1,461 square feet.
Right, so we only have one corner of part of the building that we're conveying and they're leasing it back.
Dr. Bassan, does that clarify your question?
I mean, in all fairness, it's not my huge area of expertise, but it's about clear as mud. So if administration is happy with this and recommends moving forward, I'm going to see what Councilor Jones has to ask, and maybe that will enlighten me as well.
All right, thank you. Councilor Jones?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This at one time in my life was my expertise, and I have to tell you, this is the most confusing thing I have ever read in my life. I can't tell what size it was, who was what, who owned whom, and who's zooming whom right now. And I certainly can't tell how the sale of this property, how we are leasing it back, how much, what, I don't get it. This is a completely non-understanding on my part of anything that happened here. So would you try to break it down to, I understand when the city bought it, I know what we bought, and one entity owned the top floor, and the city owned the rest of it, but the top floor, did they also include a portion of that basin storage? Anyone who would like to answer that?
Yes, they the other owners own or have an interest in the common space and this basement storage as well.
And they have owned this building, a portion of this building, for how long?
That I don't know. Raylene may know that.
Madam Chair, Counselor, I don't know how long they've owned the building. I know that when we acquired it in, I believe, 2000. And I'll have to go back and look to make sure that on that. But the first owner that owns the top floor, he has not, we did try to buy it so that the city would own the entire building. He is not wanting to sell at this time. So we just own the 2/3, which is the second and third floor, a portion of the basement and the common area.
Okay. Which is what we have owned forever. For since 2000.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. So now we're seeing that we can, since a true, something about the sale of the, since a true municipal purpose has been determined and an external appraisal of the property has completed, we can sell this. So the sale of the property is $350K and is being leased back at this amount less $10K for earnest money. So we are leasing back the property to the former owner of the rest of the property. And we're leasing it back for, it's written up, so I really can't tell what we've done here. I think I have an idea of what we are trying to do, but it is just muddled mud. So
we're transferring our interest, and it's a direct wash. We're transferring our interest to the developer. The developer is then going to lease. I'm sorry?
Who is the developer?
It is Q021 LLC.
Okay. And is Q01 LLC has any relationship with the other owner of the top floor and the portion basement?
No.
Okay, that's the part that wasn't very clear in all of this. We had too many people in there and didn't identify who they were. So we are now selling this property for $350,000.
For the appraised value, which we are getting back in tenant improvements and in credits to the lease.
Well, the appraised value was $335K, but the last sentence after that says the sale of the property is $350K and is being leased back at this amount. At what amount? Less $10K in earnest money. What is the amount that we are leasing it back at, and what all are we leasing back? Or is the seller leasing it back? And what is it's pretty muddled. And I see
Madam President,
Lawrence looking at this. Lawrence, maybe in real estate jargon, you could tell me very simply what we're doing here and who owned what, and will we end up owning what, and what are we paying, and what will we end up with?
Yeah, Mr. Real, would you like to answer that?
Madam Chair and Councillor Jones, let me give you a little bit of the history and what this transaction is. So if you'll recall, this property was originally going to be a museum. If you'll recall, it was going to be, I think, give me a second here.
It was
the Holocaust Museum. Right. The legislature appropriated money. Yes.
I remember all of this. I was here, but I think for the sake of anybody who might still be watching this thing, it would be very helpful to know what's going on.
Okay. So this was a Holocaust Museum property that was, the legislature appropriated money to have this building purchased back several years ago. When the building was, and this was identified by the community folks who were interested in putting in the museum at that site. When the state provided the funds to the city, again, this was, I'm going to say, you may remember the date better than I, but it was way before Mayor Keller's administration when this property was purchased. In fact, it may have been back in the days. Right. So as a result of that purchase, the city acquired the property with the state funds. However, the city was not able to buy the entire building because the one seller that we've talked about basically kept possession of one of the floors in the building. So we only owned 2 floors of the building. And as a result of that, we had attempted on various occasions to basically negotiate with the seller either to sell the building for the owner on the top floor to either sell the building to their portion of the building to the city, and they were unwilling to sell. However, because we had bought the other 2 floors with state funds back in the day, we were responsible for the maintenance and upkeep of the building. And so the city was paying up to $50,000 a year, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm looking at Shel Sanchez, our Director of Cultural Services. Her department was actually paying, and the city was paying this amount of money to maintain the building because we owned a portion of that. So as we began to look at this building and began to determine what is the best use for this building, et cetera, with an unwilling seller that owns a portion of the building, it was very difficult for the city to move forward with any kind of a long-term plan, yet we were putting in money year after year to maintain the facility. So in essence, we were paying $50,000 for a building that we only owned a portion of that building, and we really couldn't do much with it because we had an unwilling seller that owned a piece of that building. Now, I don't know how that transaction was done, counselors, back in the day when that building was purchased with state dollars. However, that's what we inherited when we began to look at this building. We then contacted the state of New Mexico, the Department of Finance and Administrative Services, and indicated to them that we would like to basically either sell this building and or if the state would take it back simply because it was purchased with state dollars from a state appropriation. The long and the short is the state decided that they did not want the building and that the city could take possession of the building and to move forward. So we had a letter that was sent to the city. They gave us that authority. That is the background as to why this building is in the situation that it was in at the time. When we made the determination that we would like to dispose of the building, we had an appraisal done, and the appraisal was what I think our council, I think Michael said to you, and I forget what the number is, but it's around the $335,000, if I'm not mistaken. 335, right, that it was appraised at. So we also were looking at the opportunity for potentially using the building to build, to put a police facility there to help manage the activities that were happening in downtown. And you all know what those are, and we've talked about those on many occasions. So when we put it out for folks to see who would be interested in buying the building, this group that again that Raylene or Michael just iterated expressed interest in buying the building and paying the amount that we had appraised the building for. So what we decided to do was potentially is to work a deal where we could, for the value of the building, the owner agreed to let us have the building for free, for rent free for 13 years, so that we would be paid back in rental subs, if you will. We wouldn't have to pay the rent. They would give us that value. Plus, they would do the remodeling of the building so that we could move in a police substation. So the net issue is that the city doesn't pay anything except for some minor, I think, fees or some additional amendments that we want or amenities we want. I think we wanted security glass and some additional costs that were minor. But the point is that we're getting the building for use for APD to put a substation for the value of what we'd have gotten had we just sold the building outright to the developer. So it's a way to have us move into the building and have a station, and at the same time have a third party own the building and negotiate with the other owner, and maybe having it a private business transaction might make the rest of the building work, because it was clear that the city and the previous owner of the third floor were not going to get anywhere. Is that help in terms of what we're doing?
Dr. Jones, did you want to ask a follow-up or?
Yes, I want to just, that helps. The major question and the most confusing was the last sentence of the write-up, which says the sale of the property is $350K and is being leased back at this amount plus $10K in earnest money. And I'm thinking, Why are we gonna sell it if we have to lease it back for the same thing we're selling it for? Now I get it. We're not leasing it back.
Right. We're not leasing it
That
back.
is
They're
basic.
giving us that value. That's right.
All right, that's the part that never worked here on this write-up. It didn't make sense, but now I get it.
Right.
Thank
So
you.
I think this really works well for the downtown area, and I think it's a very different way of managing this particular building, just because it's a very unusual scenario with the ownership.
And that's the truth. So thank you very much for that explanation. Sorry to go into so much of this, but this was totally mud when I'm reading it. So
Well, thank you, Councillor, for giving us the time to do that.
Councillor Bassan, did you have a follow-up question?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. One question too, being that we're discussing budget and all of that in such huge detail, where is this substation and further funding for APD and all of that coming from as far as maintenance and potential furnishing or all of the APD substation part? Where is the money coming for, and is that already in this budget process now, or?
Madam Chair and Councillor Bassan, two things. One is that the developer is putting in all the infrastructure and all the remodel and the maintenance of the building because they will own it, assuming you approve this transaction. And if you will, the operating cost for opening the facility is in the current budget that you're considering for next year.
And if I may, Madam Chair. Thank you. So to make this as perfectly clear as I possibly can, and for anybody who might still be watching this, let me say it one more time. The city will pay no rent for this facility. It has been done in the sale transaction.
That's right.
Yet we will have a valid lease agreement for however many years it takes to get that money taken care of. Is that pretty much where it is?
Madam Chair and Councillor Jones, well said. Better than I did. Yes.
Thank you, Lawrence. That's very kind of you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you for that clarification. That was going to be my question, just to make it more apparent, but I'm glad we kind of got that straight. I think I'm even scared to look back at the full agreement because I might get more confused. So we'll lay it at that. And if we don't have any other questions from councilors or any comments, no, Councilor Davis. Okay, we will move to a vote.
Councillor Bassan.
Yes.
Councillor Davis.
Yes.
Councillor Jones.
Yes.
Councillor Sena.
Yes.
That passes unanimously.
All right, on to the next agenda item. That is EC 335, Agreement with DLG Accounting Advisory Services. I move approval. Councilor Davis is a second. Councilors, any questions or comments on this item? Any comments from administration or? Nope. All right, I will move to a vote.
Councillor Bassan.
Yes.
Councillor Davis.
Yes.
Councillor Jones.
Yes.
Councillor Sena.
Yes.
That passes unanimously.
All right, there being no further business, the Public Safety Committee meeting is adjourned. Thank you.